Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is sitting in a dentist's chair, terrified. But here's what that person doesn't know. 10,000 years ago, someone felt the exact same pain. With zero anesthesia, zero tools, and somehow survived. What ancient healers discovered about killing tooth pain without a single modern drug changes how you see medicine forever. Let's go back, way back. In 2001, archaeologists in Pakistan were excavating a site called Mehrgarh, one of the oldest farming communities ever found. They uncovered human teeth, 9 of them, with tiny, perfectly drilled holes. These teeth were dated to around 7,000 BCE. That's 9,000 years ago. And those holes? Evidence of the world's first known dental procedures. Think about what that means. Before the wheel, before writing, before bronze, people were already treating tooth decay. But how? They didn't have drills powered by electricity. What they had were small, flint-tipped bow drills, the same tools used to make beads and jewelry. Somehow, someone looked at a rotting tooth and thought, same principle, and it worked. Some of those patients lived for years after the procedure based on wear patterns on the treated teeth. Now, drilling is one thing, but what about the pain before you got to the healer? What did ordinary people do when a tooth started screaming at 3 in the morning? The ancient Egyptians had a solution. The Ebers Papyrus, written around 1550 BCE, is essentially the world's oldest medical textbook, and it dedicates entire sections to tooth pain. Their go-to remedy? A paste made from cumin, incense, and onion, packed directly into the cavity. They believed tooth pain was caused by a worm, literally burrowing through the tooth. Their goal wasn't just relief, it was eviction. But here's where it gets strange. Everyone thinks ancient medicine was just superstition, rituals, prayers, and wishful thinking dressed up as treatment. But actually, many of these remedies worked, and modern science is only now figuring out why. Take cloves. Ancient Chinese physicians were prescribing clove oil for toothaches as far back as 200 BCE. Court officials were even required to chew cloves before speaking to the emperor, to freshen their breath. But cloves contain a compound called eugenol, a natural anesthetic and antiseptic. Today, eugenol is still used in dental procedures. Your dentist may have literally put it in your mouth last year, without telling you it comes from a remedy that's over 2,000 years old. Why would they do that? Because it actually numbs the nerve. It reduces inflammation. It kills bacteria. The ancients didn't know the chemistry, but they knew the result. And they weren't alone in figuring this out. In ancient Mesopotamia, healers used garlic. Garlic contains allicin, a powerful antimicrobial compound that genuinely fights oral bacteria. In India, Ayurvedic practitioners used oil pulling, swishing sesame or coconut oil through the teeth for 20 minutes, a practice some dentists are recommending again today. The Romans mixed vinegar and salt as a mouth rinse, and acidic vinegar actually does break down certain bacteria. These people were running 1,000-year experiments on themselves, keeping what worked and discarding what didn't. That's not superstition, that's empiricism. Now think about that. No lab, no funding, no peer review. Just pain, observation, and survival. Here's where it gets genuinely wild. In medieval Europe, the most common dental treatment wasn't a paste or a rinse. It was a toothworm fumigation. A patient would hold their open mouth over a burning mixture of henbane seeds and beeswax, inhaling the smoke directly onto the painful tooth. And it worked. People reported immediate relief. Why? Because henbane, also known as Hyoscyamus niger, contains hyoscyamine and scopolamine, powerful compounds that cause real, measurable nerve numbing. It also caused hallucinations, dry mouth, and occasionally death if you overdosed. But if you got the amount right, genuine pain relief. Across the Atlantic, the Aztecs were doing something remarkably similar. They used a plant called Tlalpalezpatli and applied its resin directly to aching teeth. Capsaicin, the active compound in peppers, is today used in topical pain patches because it depletes substance P, the chemical your nerves use to signal pain. The Aztecs found this without knowing what a neurotransmitter was. And then there's the Vikings. Norse sagas describe warriors treating tooth pain with a red-hot iron applied directly to the gum, essentially cauterizing the nerve. In 2014, researchers found evidence of deliberate tooth filing and extraction across multiple Viking-era sites in Scandinavia. These were not primitive people stumbling around in pain. They had a system. Honestly, the sheer variety of solutions humans developed across cultures that had zero contact with each other tells you something profound. Pain is the universal language. Then where there's pain, humans will innovate. And this is why today you brush with fluoride, rinse with antiseptic, and sit in that reclining chair trusting a stranger with sharp tools near your face. Because every single step of modern dentistry is built on a foundation laid by people who had nothing but herbs, fire, and desperation. The first dental school in the world opened in 1840. That's less than 200 years ago. For the 9,000 years before that, humanity was figuring it out in real time, village by village, healer by healer. We didn't just inherit the tools, we inherited the philosophy. The idea that tooth pain is a symptom, not a punishment. The idea that you can intervene, treat, and heal. That idea had to be invented. Somewhere, 10,000 years ago, a person decided that suffering wasn't inevitable. That's not nothing. That's one of the most important ideas in human history. And it matters today because oral health is still one of the most neglected areas of global medicine. The WHO estimates that untreated tooth decay affects 2.3 billion people right now. In many parts of the world, people are still relying on clove oil, garlic, and salt rinses. Not out of ignorance, but because that's what's available. Those remedies still work. Not as well as modern dentistry, but they work. What does this mean for how you think about ancient knowledge? Maybe the question isn't how primitive they were. Maybe the question is how much we still haven't rediscovered. Your ancestors were not waiting for science to save them. They were doing science, slowly, painfully, generation by generation. Every remedy that survived did so because it worked on a real human being who was hurting. So next time you're in that chair, white-knuckled, staring at the ceiling, remember the person in Mehrgarh, 7000 BCE, with a bow drill pressed against their molar. Remember the Egyptian pressing onion paste into a cavity by lamplight. Remember the Viking with the red-hot iron. You come from a long, stubborn line of people who refused to just endure the pain. The tools got better, the science got deeper. But the instinct, that relentless human drive to fix what hurts, that's ancient. That's yours. If you want to dig deeper, links to the Ebers Papyrus translations, the Mehrgarh dental study, and the Viking oral health research are all in the description. See you. Subscribe if you found this interesting. Don't worry too much at the dentist and stay healthy.